AM 560, The Answer.
The content and information on Real Estate Airwaves is for informational purposes only and should not be regarded as legal advice. Real Estate Airwaves does not provide legal advice and make no warranty or representation regarding the information on the show. Real Estate Airwaves shall not assume any liability for damages of any kind whatsoever relating to the use, misuse, or reliance of this information. The listener should conduct their own investigations, analysis, due diligence, draw their own conclusions, and make their own decisions. Any areas concerning taxes or specific legal or technical questions should be referred to lawyers, accountants, consultants, brokers, or other professionals licensed, qualified, or authorized to render such advice.
No fluff, no hype, no gurus. You're listening to Real Estate Airwaves on AM 560, The Answer. Get the inside information you need to find, fund, fix, and flip real estate in today's market. Joshua Ingalls and Vincent Pace share their secrets to minimize risk, maximize profit, and get deals done. We're pulling the curtain back and sharing the knowledge you need to succeed in real estate. And now, your hosts, Joshua and Vincent.
Thanks for tuning in. Today we are talking about putting probate deals into your pipeline. I promise by the end of this show you will be able to successfully find probates, market to them, and do probate deals. This is Real Estate Airwaves. My name is Joshua Ingalls. I'm an active real estate investor over the last 3 years. I've flipped over 60 fix and flip deals. I'm also an active real estate broker with United Real Estate.
And I'm Vincent Pace. I head up Barnett Real Estate Investment Finance. We provide short-term capital for your real estate investment deals.
The number here is 855-5-AIRWAVES, or you can visit realestateairwaves.com. So what is the probate? What is the probate process? Well, probate is simply, it's the court-supervised process of gathering a deceased person's assets and distributing them between the inheritors and the creditors. So that means if somebody did a roof on a house 5 years ago, this is their chance to put a claim against the estate. So before that house gets sold, they can then get paid before the money gets dispersed to the between the beneficiaries of that estate.
The courts have to make some decisions as to what's going on in that process. One of the things, of course, is first identify creditors. Lenders will be covered. People who are owed money on a roof from 5 years ago are covered. And also they have to identify the beneficiaries. You know, are there children who are going to get it? Are there relatives who are going to get it? They have to dig into that to figure out where all these assets are going to end up.
And usually the probate process happens when a person passes away without a living trust. And that's something I highly recommend you setting up if you don't have one, so you can avoid the probate process. But the courts actually decide who the legal heirs are if there's not a will. And then they're also going to, if there is a will, they're going to verify that will. Now, the family is going to be not only dealing with the loss of a loved one, but they're also going to be dealing with attorneys, court dates, possible creditors, family disputes. You know, a lot of times it's unfortunate, but when someone passes away, you know, the kids start fighting over who gets what. And so it can be kind of a sticky and very sensitive time for people. And then they also have to distribute personal belongings and then the estate. So there's a lot of work that goes into this whole process when a property goes into probate.
So the person running this show is going to be called the executor or the administrator. It's typically a family member, maybe an attorney who runs the estate, and they're going to be pretty overwhelmed with all this stuff that's kind of laid on top of them. All those things that Josh just mentioned, you know, they all come at sort of the same time.
Yeah, and the family, they don't get the proceeds until the estate is settled. So again, that means all the creditors are paid off, and then what's left over then goes to the beneficiaries. And usually that process, that at least in Illinois, usually that's going to be a 6-month process, and it varies in different areas of that timetable. So you need to learn the process for your state and learn what those timetables are. Now, the family can sell the home before that 6-month period or whatever that period is for your state, but the proceeds from that estate aren't going to be dispersed until after. But it's a good thing for someone to sell a home even before that 6-month period, because while that home is sitting there, they have to pay real estate taxes. If there's an association, they have to pay the association dues. They have to pay, the electric, the gas. And usually one person is fronting that bill, and that's usually the administrator. So why should people in probate work with investors? Well, many times a realtor is going to require the home to be cleaned out, fixed up, and really made presentable before they're going to list it or show it. I've seen sometimes where real estate agents don't want to be associated with listings where there's stuff all over the place. A lot of times a realtor is going to make the family clean out the house. Now, your job as the investor is to help the family sell the house in the easiest manner possible and not give them that extra work because they already have a full plate.
Another big benefit is just going to be speed. An investor can come in and close much more quickly. They can come in with a cash offer, or they can come with a lender like us and get the deal closed on a timeline that often can't happen when you're trying to list and maximize the value on the MLS.
Yeah, we're going to close quickly. We're going to buy the house as is. And then even as investors, we can offer them to help sell things like antiques and valuables. So we can go up and beyond what many times what a realtor can do. And another reason why families, when they're in this probate process, prefer to work with investors is because there's multiple beneficiaries. So if they were to get a $100,000 cash offer from an investor versus a $120,000 list price is what a realtor is recommending that they could get, if that's getting spread out between 5 or 6 different people, really the difference between your cash offer and listing it might just be $5,000 or $6,000. And many times the family just wants to sell it and be done and then get that money back quickly. Whereas a realtor listing it, it may be a lengthier process, and there's going to be a lot more hiccups that they're going to have to deal with. They're going to have to deal with showings. They're going to have to deal with maybe offers coming in that aren't as is, or so these are all challenges that they may face when working with the realtor. So working with investors many times when a home is in probate is that family's best option, because we can provide that convenience for them and really help them in this tough time.
This is another great example, especially in the example Josh gave here, where, the investor's coming in offering 100 and the realtor saying you'd sell it for 120. It's a really good example of running your numbers, because after you take out the realtor's fees, you take out the other various things, the time spent, it can really make a lot of sense for the family to take 100 and walk away in a week or two, rather than going through a 3-month sale process where there's commissions, there's carrying costs. The numbers, won't end up that different in an example like this. So if you can run your numbers and show the family that, hey, this isn't that different, and you get to walk away now with little effort and the money comes much more quickly, that's how you can make a pitch that makes sense for everybody.
Yeah, and the great thing about probates is they are the most abundant source of leads. Not everyone goes into foreclosure. Usually, actually, probates outnumber foreclosures 2 to 1. The reality is there's only 2 things guaranteed in life. That's death and taxes. So the reality is this isn't affected by the real estate market. There's always going to be an influx of probate leads. And really, a family has 4 options when they're in probate. Number 1 is they can keep the house in the family, and usually one person from the family will move into the home. Now, this doesn't happen very often because that means only one person is benefiting from that. They can also rent out the house. And usually when that happens, usually the administrator is doing all the work, and then the rent's getting split up 5 or 6 different ways. So that rarely happens either. And then option number 3, of course, they can list it with the realtor, pay a commission, clean out the house, It's a lengthier process. Or 4, us as the investors, we can come in, buy the house as is, and close on their timeline. And that's where we can really bring a lot of value to families when they're in the probate process. Probate has it's actually one of my favorite marketing methods, because I've been able to help a lot of families where they met with realtors, and sometimes realtors were even quoting them false expectations on what they could get for the home, and really requiring them to do a lot of things that they didn't necessarily have the time to do. A lot of times the administrator might have a full-time job and doesn't have the time to clean out the entire house. The number here is 855-5-AIRWAVES, or you can visit realestateairwaves.com. Stay tuned. We're going to be talking about how to get the probate leads. We'll see you soon.
Mortgage rates are still near historic lows. If you're looking to buy your first home, upgrade, downsize, invest, or refinance, contact Matthew Ewald from Draper & Kramer Mortgage Corp. Matthew has been a trusted mortgage consultant for over 13 years and has options to fit your unique needs. With 40-plus investors, call Matthew today at 630-376-0484. That's 630-376-0484. Or apply online at mortgagechicagoland.com. Company NMLS 2551, NMLS 198323, Illinois Residential Mortgage Licensee, Equal Housing Lender.
If you want to do real estate deals, you need to learn the systems. Visit fliptoriches.com for info on workshops happening the first Tuesday of every month. Meet me, Joshua Ingalls, and other active real estate investors in the Chicagoland area. We give the most value possible with networking and information for new and seasoned investors. We meet the first Tuesday of every month at 3009 North Kedzie in Chicago at 6 p.m. Check out fliptoriches.com. That's fliptoriches.com for all the info now.
Need capital for your real estate investment? Let Barnett Real Estate Investment Finance be your partner for fast, flexible, and certain capital. Since 2008, they've funded millions of home flippers, landlords, auction buyers, wholesalers, and more. And they'd like their next deal to be with you. Submit your preliminary application now at barnettcapital.com/prelim or call them at 224-205-7266. Again, that's 224-205-7266.
AM 560, The Answer. It's all about making money with real estate. Now, back to Real Estate Airwaves on AM 560, The Answer.
Today we are talking about getting deals from probate. Now, there's 2 major boxes where you're actually going to find these leads. The first is going to be on a variety of websites, and then you can actually go to the courthouse. So some of those websites include websites like usprobateleads.com and usleadlist.com. Those are obviously national, and you can get a lot of different regions in those. And then each area is going to have its own local websites. For instance, in Illinois, you can go to ILFLS, that's F as in Frank, L, S as in Sam. And you can also go to getchicagocomps.com for the Chicago area. These websites will, they provide quick access, and a lot of people will be looking at them, but a more exact way to do it is actually to go to the courthouse. Now, this is more accurate, but it's going to take significantly more time.
Yeah, I really recommend going to the courthouse, at least when you're first starting out, just to learn the process, pulling the records yourself. Some areas don't have websites where you can get probate leads necessarily. So you may be listening to the show and you may be in an area where you can't get this information. I always recommend at least learning the process and then verifying if you are buying the data from one of these companies. You need to make sure that the information they're giving you is accurate. So that's why I always recommend comparing a paid thing service that you're buying every single month, and then comparing it to what it actually is at the courthouse. And if there's discrepancies, you might just want to pull those records from the courthouse. And here's the thing, too. You want to consider if there are lots of discrepancies, that can be a great thing for you because most of the other people are going to take the easy route, and they're going to get this information off those websites. So if you want to look at usprobateleads.com, that's the national list provider. they're actually going to be the most expensive option because they're buying their list from another list provider who might be buying their list from another list provider. So it's like you're playing the telephone game, and that information just keeps becoming less and less accurate. So try to work with a local list provider if possible, and verify it at the courthouse.
So then the next question is, once you actually have the leads, how do you capitalize on them? And this gets back to, our actual episodes 1 and 2. We're going to talk about a lot of the same methods. So the first one to talk about is direct mail. And as we discussed before, you've got the option of a postcard versus a letter. So the costs end up working out where a postcard is cheaper than a letter, but they're easily tossed. They're more likely to be tossed than a letter. So you've got a sort of return rate on those. Postcards have the benefit of you see the message before you actually open it up. So you are exposed to whatever message you're trying to convey before it. But letters have twice the contact rate for twice the price. So the end result, Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, they're roughly the same.
They're roughly the same. That's why I recommend, if you're doing a mailing campaign, is do a blend of letters and postcards. The great thing is when you're doing the follow-up touches, like touches 3 and 4, you can reduce your overall marketing budget, and you want to keep that message consistent and know it's the same person, so that way they're taking note. Wow, this person sent me 2 letters already. Now they're sending me a postcard, and they recognize who you are from those letters. Because, again, with anything in this business, consistency is very, very important. And something you may want to look at is a handwritten letter or postcard versus a printed letter and postcard. Now, I've found that a lot of times handwritten are going to be much more effective. Now, again, handwritten is going to cost more, but especially in a probate situation, it's a much more personal touch, and people will respond better to a personalized message where it looks like you took the time to handwrite that. And many times you can even get fonts off the internet and certain printers that will make it look handwritten even if it's not. So there are ways to kind of cheat the system to make it look handwritten.
And our giveaway today is actually one of these letters. I believe it's a printed one, right? So call us at 855-5-AIRWAVES or visit us at realestateairwaves.com. That letter will be made available to the first 50 people who contact us via those methods.
Yeah, and of course, getting letters and postcards in your mail is one thing. How do you take that to the next level? Now, these letters, I should mention, these should be sent to the administrator of the estate. So when the home goes into a probate, usually an administrator is named through that court process. So these letters should be going to the administrator and then referencing the home of the deceased. But you're sending the letter to the actual administrator's address, so that way they get your mail. The next method that you might want to look at is actually door knocking the administrator's home. We had a meeting the other night, and a gentleman, he got a very, very, very lucrative deal by being persistent and doing the door knocking. It is, people can throw away your mail. It's much different when you're face-to-face with someone.
And you can actually, when you're door knocking, you can actually leave behind a package that contains kind of the proposal you're including and, your standard condolences and things that kind of make your presentation personable, giving the sensitivity of the situation.
Yeah, you want to make sure that your message is a little bit tweaked versus your normal marketing message. And, again, if you can get them face-to-face, that's great. If not, like Vince said, having that leaf behind is very important. So that way they know that, hey, you were there. And if you're pairing that with the actual mail that they're receiving, they will appreciate the fact that you're being very persistent, and you're probably the only person that's door knocking them. So you're really going to set yourself apart from the competition.
So besides sending them written materials, besides showing up in person, you can obviously try to call them as well. There's various places where you can dig up the phone numbers for people. Cole Realty Resource, that's COLE, Realty Resource is one such place. It's going to just require you to do some due diligence on where you can find these sorts of numbers. But the phone numbers then provide you another method where you can try and contact the administrator. Now, when you call, you should definitely leave a voice message if you can't get in touch with somebody. And you should probably have that voice message sort of thought out beforehand so that you can leave something appropriate that gets them on the line with you later.
Yeah, and if by any chance they call you back and, you can get a cell phone number, texting is going to be extremely effective as well. Many times emails, I'll delete them before I even open them up. A text message, though, on the other hand, when you get a text message on your cell phone, that little notification on your phone doesn't go away until you actually open that text message. So if you get somebody's cell phone, and I'm not just talking about probates, but just in general, sometimes texting is much more effective than any email that you can send someone, and it doesn't take a long time to do. And when you're doing door knocking and you're doing what I would consider this kind of like cold calling, you want to have some sort of script. Now, we're in the information age where you can go online on YouTube and get a variety of different scripts for door knocking. But you don't just want to knock on the door and not know what you're saying. The best method that I've used when I've door knocked is I actually have copies of the letters that I sent them in the mail. So it's not so much a cold door knock. It's somewhat of a warm introduction. And I actually hold up my marketing pieces that I sent them. And so they're like, oh, okay, it's this guy who sent that letters. And so my script is very, very geared around the fact that, hey, my name is Joshua Ingalls. I was just checking in to see if you received my letters that I sent in the mail. Here's a copy of them if you have not. And that's a little bit of a warmer introduction than sometimes some scripts that you can use.
One last quick thing to mention is another good source is going to be probate attorneys. Obviously, they're in the thick of this every day because that's their business. They'll be a great source for you to try and find those sorts of leads.
The number here is 855-5-AIRWAVES, or you can visit realestateairwaves.com. The first 50 people to contact us will be getting a copy of the letter that we sent to people in the probate situation. We'll see you soon.
You're an investor, a lender in commercial real estate, or you're an attorney, and you use a title company. National Title Solutions wants a chance to be your title company. Give them a shot at your business, and you'll find out why they're the best choice. Most title companies keep banking hours and have no flexibility. National Title Solutions will do whatever it takes on your timetable. You'll save money, too. Give them an opportunity and see the difference. Convenient offices all over. National Title Solutions. Call 800-NTS-2700. 800-NTS-2700. Mortgage rates are still near historic lows. If you're looking to buy your first home, upgrade, downsize, invest, or refinance, contact Matthew Ewald from Draper & Kramer Mortgage Corp. Matthew has been a trusted mortgage consultant for over 13 years and has options to fit your unique needs. With 40-plus investors, call Matthew today at 630-376-0484. That's 630-376-0484. Or apply online at mortgagechicagoland.com. Company NMLS 2551, NMLS 198323, Illinois Residential Mortgage Licensee, Equal Housing Lender.
The Chicagoland Real Estate Investment Group invites you to build your network in real estate investing and learn from the region's experts. There's no charge to attend, and there won't be any hard sell for expensive courses. Join us on the fourth Monday each month in the North Shore. For more information, visit us at meetup.com/ChicagolandREI. Again, that's meetup.com/ChicagolandREI. Meetup.com/ChicagolandREI.
Need capital for your real estate investment? Let Barnett Real Estate Investment Finance be your partner for fast, flexible, and certain capital. Since 2008, they've funded millions of home flippers, landlords, auction buyers, wholesalers, and more. And they'd like their next deal to be with you. Submit your preliminary application now at barnettcapital.com/prelim or call them at 224-205-7266. Again, that's 224-205-7266.
AM 560, The Answer. Now, back to the show that gives you the insider info. Real Estate Airwaves on AM 560, The Answer.
Today we are talking about probates. So far we've covered, what probates are, how they typically work out. We've covered how to generate the leads. Now we're going to turn to how to take calls. So you've been sending your written materials. You've maybe left some voicemails. Maybe you texted, and now someone calls you back. So the question becomes then, how do you handle these calls? And because you're in a probate situation, it's very important that you handle them with sensitivity and you have the right message. So the first thing you probably are going to want to do is, you let people know that you're a family business. Let them know that you're not some faceless corporation out there trying to, profit like a vulture. You want to help them, and you want to help them move forward in the situation the best way possible. Be honest. They're going to ask you things like, well, how did you get my number? And you can simply tell them, well, you got it from the county, you got it from this website. You are trying to help people in this situation. You want to make that abundantly clear. Now, you are going to get people who are angry, people who don't want to hear from you in this situation. People are in an emotional state when someone passes, so this is to be expected, and you need to be able to handle that, with grace.
Yeah, something that you may want to do to overcome some of that is maybe if an opportunity opens up is where you actually share a story of maybe someone in your family that might have passed away and how your family had to deal with the situation. You're trying to build rapport. That's really the most important thing on this phone call is the rapport building that you're doing. Yeah, you want to get, obviously, the information on the home, like bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, what needs to be done with the home. But really, more importantly, is building rapport, because many times somebody will sell you a home. In some cases, I've had it happen with me, where I wasn't necessarily the highest offer, but they liked me over perhaps that other offer where that other investor might have been rude and very short with them. So, if you get the preliminary information and you feel like they're going to be a good fit and it sounds like the house may need work, or, they've got a lot of things in the house and they want to sell it as is, you want to make sure to set that appointment. And a great way to do this that I like to do is say, hey, I'm going to be in the area at 3 o'clock today. Is that going to work for you? And I may not be in the area at 3 o'clock. I'm going to be in the area because that's the house I want to see. The thing I want to do is be one of the first people to meet with them. So taking that initiative to try to set the appointment, that little trick is pretty important. And again, when you meet with them, keep in mind, rapport. When you're walking through the house, talk about things that you might see on the walls. If they've got, some sports team on the wall, that's something you may want to bring up. For example, if they're a Bears fan, you can bring up the fact, hey, I'm a Bears fan. They didn't do so well this year, but hopefully we'll do better next year. You're trying to do better. And of course, always, if they have children or kids, and you have kids, this is a huge rapport building. You could have two people who have nothing in common, but you start talking about your kids, and rapport is automatically built.
Kind of a fundamental thing that you're going to be doing there at any time you're dealing with anybody in probate or anywhere generally, but especially in probate because of the sensitivity situation. You just want to be extremely respectful. Josh, I know you've heard some horror stories about this. Can you tell us about some of those?
Yeah, I've had homeowners and people that are selling their house tell me about investors that come in with a clipboard and they're just going through the house. They're not making any conversation. They're taking notes, opening up, the panel to the attic. They're not even asking for permission to do this. They're taking off the cover of the furnace to check the condition of the furnace. Now, these are all things you can do, but be very respectful. Ask for permission. When you get into the house, take off your shoes. Didn't your mom teach you better? It's just you gotta build rapport, and you can't just be about the deal, because even if you give them a good offer, they're not going to want to sell the house to you if you're being a jerk.
Yeah, I mean, and it goes back to what we mentioned before. I mean, you start to look like a faceless corporation, and that just doesn't have the level of personability or sensitivity given the situation that you running your own personal business, a family business, would be able to generate with them. It comes to a pretty important point that I think applies generally, but even more so in this situation, that at the end of the day, this business is not about real estate. It's about people. And in this situation, you're dealing with a point in people's lives when they're going through some stress and it's tough for them, and you want to help them through that, and you want to be as absolutely respectful as you can possibly be.
Yeah, and find out what their needs are. Sometimes their needs isn't necessarily a price. Perhaps they need help with moving things. And our goal as investors, sometimes we get one-track minded of, well, we need to make the offer at this price to be a deal. Well, let's really find out what the people's needs are and help them achieve those their goals. And, something that I do that separates myself from a lot of investors, when I meet with sellers, I try to give them an offer then and there. Again, it's going to separate me from other novice investors who might have to go home, do their calculations. So that will set you apart. The number here is 855-5-AIRWAVES, or you can visit realestateairwaves.com. The first 50 people to contact us will be getting a copy of the letter that we send to people in probate. We'll see you soon.
Real estate agents are cheap. Many agents will only market your home on the MLS and put a sign up. Demand more. Joshua Ingalls invests in aggressive marketing, including high-def video, 3D virtual tours, professional photography, a custom website, and mailers, so you can get the most amount of money for your home in the shortest amount of time. Call Joshua Ingalls, broker with United Real Estate Chicago, at 630-544-1504 for a free home valuation, or visit hometeamil.com to learn more.
Need capital for your real estate investment? Let Barnett Real Estate Investment Finance be your partner for fast, flexible, and certain capital. Since 2008, they've funded millions of home flippers, landlords, auction buyers, wholesalers, and more. And they'd like their next deal to be with you. Submit your preliminary application now at barnettcapital.com/prelim or call them at 224-205-7266. Again, that's 224-205-7266.
AM 560, The Answer. Now, back to the show with real estate info you won't find anywhere else. Real Estate Airwaves is on AM 560, The Answer.
Welcome back. Today we are talking about putting probate properties into your pipeline where we can really help a lot of people and do a lot of good. Now, the key to any business success is consistency. So in order to be consistent in this business, we need to set up systems and we need to automate certain things. So it's very important to automate marketing as much as possible. If it relies on you to get done, it might not get done. I mean, I've got so many fires I'm putting out every single day, and it's really hard to keep up with everything. If the marketing is relying on me to get done, chances are it's not getting done. So you need to perhaps be working with a marketing company or outsourcing this piece or bringing somebody in. When I first started the business, I used to hire my niece. She would pull the records. She would put them into the spreadsheet. She would do the letters. She'd handwrite the envelopes, stuff the envelopes, stamp it, and it was good money for her at the time. I think I avoided the child labor laws since she was a relative. But if you got kids...
I don't know if that's good legal advice right there.
But if you have family or kids or whatever, get them involved with your business. They can make some extra money if you're giving them... if you're giving your kids money every week, allowance, make them work for it, or perhaps raise their allowance by giving us some task and get them excited about the business.
When you're looking to put a system in place, I mean, you basically got two options that you can really bring to the table. One is some kind of technology, and the two is some kind of person who can do the work for you. We've got clients who do all sorts of methods to do this. They build out systems, but we've also got some who will hire someone to be their night shift in the Philippines or something like that. And those are very affordable ways to do it. And you can find reliable people that start working when you go home for dinner. And then in the morning, they've taken care of some big stuff for you. So it's a great way to keep the ball rolling forward throughout all 24 hours on the clock.
Yeah, VAs are an extremely, we will have an episode about that in the future on Real Estate Airwaves, but having a virtual assistant to do some of those mundane tasks, but tasks that need to get done, it's great. You can pay a fraction of what it would cost, because, again, your time is extremely valuable, so you can't be the person doing everything. Now, it's true. No one's necessarily going to do that task probably as well as you're going to do it, but you need to learn how to delegate. The difference between ultra wealthy people and the normal average citizen is extremely wealthy people know how to delegate. That's why they have maids. That's why they have assistants. They understand the importance of their time, because we can make money, we can lose money, but the reality is about time, it's something we can never get back.
Yeah, you can think about it like which wealthy person is the only person working for them. There's almost nobody like that. They have an infrastructure of people under them, and you need to be able to create that same sort of person. So to bring this high-level talk back to the probate process, we were talking before about how you've got to send out your direct mailers, you've got to go through the data, you've got to follow up with phone calls and other various things. You can have someone assist you with all of this, whether it's queuing up a phone call for your morning, or whether it is figuring out which leads are good from the data, or whether it's even comparing data you got from the courthouse to data you're finding online. These are all things that you can get your niece, someone sitting in the Philippines, or even just a regular old employee here to help you sift through and make it easier for you to keep on top of the probate process, which can be sort of data intensive. I mean, it does require legwork to get to these deals.
Yeah, and another thing you want to do is track your numbers. You should be having different letters. Each touch you might have 5 or 6 touches. Which letter is doing the best out of that? And maybe you can, if maybe that third touch is doing the best, maybe try moving into one, or maybe try making your other letters more like that response rate where you're getting the best response. Or maybe perhaps a postcard is not giving you any response whatsoever, so you tweak that touch. You should always be tweaking your marketing and keep trying to better it, keep bettering your response rate. And, these things are extremely important in your business. Automation and then tracking. That's going to make you extremely successful. And one final thing I want to talk about on this segment is really, if you don't have a living trust, this is something that you should set up, because a big misconception that most Americans have is that, well, I have a will. It doesn't go into probate. I've met with so many people where they didn't realize that they had to go into the probate process. So setting up a revocable living trust, it does cost more money than doing a will, but the reality is the probate process can cost a family anywhere between 5%, I've seen it all the way as high as 30% of the estate. And attorneys will set up wills for very little to no cost because they know the family's going to come back once the person passes away. So set up an irrevocable living trust. Meet with an attorney. It's very good to set up so you can help your family avoid this in the future and make this process much more seamless. And it will definitely, again, this probate process is stressful. So we want to help people, but let's try to avoid it for ourselves. The number here is 855-5-AIRWAVES, or you can visit realestateairwaves.com. The first 50 people to contact us will be getting a copy of the marketing that we use to probate properties. We'll see you soon.
You're an investor, a lender in commercial real estate, or you're an attorney, and you use a title company. National Title Solutions wants a chance to be your title company. Give them a shot at your business, and you'll find out why they're the best choice. Most title companies keep banking hours and have no flexibility. National Title Solutions will do whatever it takes on your timetable. You'll save money, too. Give them an opportunity and see the difference. Convenient offices all over. National Title Solutions. Call 800-NTS-2700. 800-NTS-2700.
Need capital for your real estate investment? Let Barnett Real Estate Investment Finance be your partner for fast, flexible, and certain capital. Since 2008, they've funded millions of home flippers, landlords, auction buyers, wholesalers, and more. And they'd like their next deal to be with you. Submit your preliminary application now at barnettcapital.com/prelim or call them at 224-205-7266. Again, that's 224-205-7266.
AM 560, The Answer. It's all about making money with real estate. Now, back to Real Estate Airwaves on AM 560, The Answer.
Welcome back. Today we've been talking about probates. Probates, of course, are the court-supervised process of gathering the assets of a person who's passed away and distributing them to creditors and inheritors. Where this comes in for investors is that investors can help them dispose of their real estate assets and make it more easily divisible among the beneficiaries. This is a process where investors can really kind of help a family move forward by reducing burden and reducing the time required to dispose of assets as compared to simply letting a MLS realtor sell it. We spoke about how you actually get these leads, and it goes back to some of the public records we've discussed in various episodes previously, and also a variety of websites that we've listed out for you. And of course, you can also network with probate attorneys. Then once you've got these leads, you've got a bunch of leads about probates that are ongoing, you can then figure out how to market to them. And this, again, ties into earlier episodes, specifically episodes 1 and 2, where you're doing direct mail, you're sending postcards, you're sending letters. You're following up with door knocking. Once you know where the administrator is or the executor is, you actually go there and try and start a face-to-face conversation with them. And then, of course, there's calling and texting, which you can also try to do to add in sort of a third attack vector to get in touch with people. Doing all of those is sort of the best way to get multiple touches so that you can communicate best with a person handling this. Then we discussed what happens once you actually start communicating with somebody, how you really want to create a personal connection, show that you're really trying to help them. You're trying to create a win-win. You're not coming in and trying to really take advantage of a bad situation, but you want to help them get through that situation in a quicker way. You establish that communication, and you want to kind of build it towards making an appointment where you can go to the property. You're at the property, you're being very respectful. You're trying to build a great rapport with the executor. We went beyond that to talk about how you take these marketing steps and you really automate it. Because probates require so much heavy lifting of data and a lot of touches, there's a lot of sort of grunt work to really bring these deals into your deal queue. You want to minimize the amount of time you spend on this. And lastly, we touched on how you want to avoid this process yourself. You want to set up a living trust so that, should you pass, your family won't have to go through the same sort of process that can be costly, stressful, and time-consuming.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're just tuning in now, your action items that you need to do after listening to this, if you want to put probates in your business, is number one, you need to find that list provider that you can use or get it from the courthouse yourself. Number two is send out those mailers. If you're just starting out, whether it's 5 mailers, 10 mailers, 20 mailers, get them out there, get some exposure, and then get in front of people and actually try to meet with someone, door knock them, call them. This will really, really help you learn the process and will help you make this a major part of your business. Now, I hope to meet you. We're going to be having a meeting on February the 7th at 3009 North Kedzie. You can visit fliptoriches.com to learn more if you're in the Chicagoland area. The number here is 855-5-AIRWAVES, or you can visit realestateairwaves.com. The first 50 people to contact us will be getting a copy of the marketing that we use to send to Probate Properties. We'll see you next week.
You've been listening to Real Estate Airwaves on AM 560, The Answer. Come back next Sunday at noon for more insider real estate information from Joshua and Vincent. You can listen to past shows, contact them, and get free exclusive content at realestateairwaves.com. That's realestateairwaves.com.